Greetings, YouTube. There was a time in my life when I wasn't what you'd be considered a political animal. I didn't really question much of the world around me. And I frankly think that was by design because while my education in high school covered, some of the civic basics, it never really got into the nitty-gritty of it. It never really drew the curtain back and let you really see what was going on and how things were done. And I believe that was an intentional machination on the part of politicians to undermine the American education system, and it hasn't changed one whit since I graduated in high school in 1982. If anything, it's accelerated. The GOP has an explicit goal of completely dismantling the public school system. Because of that, it took me a long time to begin to look at things and start to question them. I can remember when I first questioned the fact that there were people in America, the wealthiest nation on earth, potentially the wealthiest nation that's ever existed, that didn't have health care. I My brain couldn't wrap around it. It just didn't make any sense to me. How could this be conceivably possible? That the wealthiest nation on the planet would not make sure that every single person had the health care that they need. And of course, I read more, I learned more, I grew increasingly cynical and acerbic as time went on, as I really came to understand of how they make the sausage. And the government really didn't want me to know that. They didn't want me to be an educated individual. They didn't want me to be an informed voter. They didn't want me to see that in every single administration that the Republicans have had, since as long as I can remember, they have failed objectively at maintaining the economy. All they have done is shift money from the working class into the coffers of billionaires. Over the course of 40 years, 40 years, okay, so we're talking 82, since I graduated high school, they have transferred 50 trillion with a T dollars from the working class to the wealthy. Billionaires that had $40 billion at one point in their life now have 200, $300 billion. We have one guy who's on the cusp of potentially becoming the world's first trillionaire. And he didn't get there because he's moral and ethical. He did that by exploiting and abusing others. But think what we could have done with all that money if we had been able to put it into not just paying down the national debt, but infrastructure, roads, bridges, railroads, actual light rail all the way across America, into our schools, making sure that everyone went from kindergarten through college free of charge. We can thank Reagan for school debt, for college debt. That was the goal, to put a burden upon those who couldn't afford it, the working class. The folks that are going to Ivy League schools, they could care less how much they have to pay to go there. No, it's the ones that go to other schools that will get huge amounts of debt, which will keep them poor and help them create another generation of people living in poverty. My wife just had her school debt relieved, and at that point, it wasn't a huge amount. It was like $13,000, um, which is nice. It means $13,000 we don't have to pay off, which is awesome. But she shouldn't have ever had that. And why did she have that? Well, if you dig through the sausage deep enough, you'll find that Reagan did it. He was the beachhead upon which the GOP has built their entire campaign of war on the working class. So I can't claim ignorance anymore. I can't say, well, I didn't really understand what was going on. It is my job as a citizen to know what the hell is going on. It is my job as a citizen to be engaged. It is my job right now in 2024 to do everything in my power to make sure that not a single Republican gets elected to any office. I don't want any of them. I saw a blurb on Newsbreak this morning that they're considering a law in New Hampshire that would allow partisan election to school boards. So instead of a person just running for the school board without any party affiliation next to their name, you would have to have an R or a D or an I, indicating an independent of some variety. Um, and I'm all for that because no one from the GOP has any business working in any capacity for the education system. Like I said, they've spent decades trying to completely dismantle it. And all they're going to try to do is get the thin end of the wedge in there and start shoving more and more socially conservative policies down the throat of American students and destroying our education system completely. But I can't be ignorant of that anymore. I can't pretend how the sausage is being made. I can't just look at it and say, oh, it arrives in the store. No. I know where it comes from. As a side note, I've actually been to a hot dog factory. I found it fascinating. But we need to be aware. We need to be informed. We need to be engaged. And if anyone wants to tell me how the parties are the same, that's complete and utter bullshit. I don't care who says it to me. I don't care how earnestly you are. There are policies that exist right now that have been put into place since 2020 that would not exist under a Republican government. And Republican administration would not have put those policies into effect. And those policies are benefiting individual Americans and the nation as large. Do I like the Democrats? No. Do I like Biden? No. I want AOC to be president, and even she's not progressive enough for my taste. There's a guy running against from the primary, Dean Phillips. He's a Zionist. Why the hell would I want to have him win? We already have a Zionist in office. Why would I want to put a younger one in there? I'm voting for Biden because he's got the best shot of beating the GOP. That's it. It's a calculated measure. It is the best of a crappy choice. And I know you're going to tell me that that situation is benefiting the status quo Democrats as it has for every other administration election cycle. And you're correct. I can't change the system overnight. We need all these people to get old, pass on, and get the hell out of the way. We need younger people. And the reality is that the younger people, the people way younger than me, because I'm 59, are really sick and tired of these folks. They want real change. And many of them are communists. So I'm hoping that they can help the system and help move us in a progressive direction, because that's what we need. In my youth, I was conservative in attitude. Kill 'em all and let God sort them out, kind of a worldview. And now I'm a democratic socialist. Completely different policies, completely different worldview. Why did I change? Because I learned. And that is why the GOP is terrified, because they don't want any of us to know how the sausage is made.